Good afternoon. This is the Barnstable Affordable Housing Growth and Development Trust Fund meeting, board meeting, being Monday, June 3rd, 2024. It's actually 2:03 at this time. We will proceed with the meeting. I do want to note that in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, the chair must inquire whether anyone is taping this meeting and to please make their presence known. Okay, seeing none, open the meeting with a roll call vote. Laura Schufeld,
Present.
Wendy Northcross,
Present.
Mark Milne,
Present.
Mark Ells, present. Andy Clyburn will not be in attendance today. Okay, completing roll call, I'll move into public comment. Is there any public comment today from those in attendance?
Yeah, Mark, can you hear me? This is Chuck Villa. Can I want to speak in favor of the WinCorp and
Yes.
what they're
Yes.
doing. So,
Yes, sir, Mr. Villa, please proceed.
okay, so I'm a local businessman and in the service industry. My daughter and her husband own the West End restaurant, and I'm a 50-year resident of Barnstable. And our demand and need for housing is critical for us to even stay in business. We have people that are commuting from as far away as Plymouth, and we are only operating 5 days a week and just open for dinner because we can't find the staff to open more times and even for lunch. And there's staff out there and there's staff available, but they have no place to live. And as you probably know, many restaurants have the luxury of buying houses to house their people, and we just can't do that. So we need affordable workforce housing in Hyannis, and I'm so excited about the WinCorp because they have this view of having such a high percentage of their apartments are for workforce and affordable housing. And so I think we're desperately in need of people like them and others to invest in Hyannis. And an $80 million investment in Hyannis is massive and huge. And I know there's some taxpayer money out there to help them through some of this construction costs to pay for additional percentages of affordable housing. So I'd like to voice my positive support for this type of development, and companies like Win, who have a great reputation. We should be so proud that they've chosen Barnstable as one of the places to put one of these very large apartment complexes.
Thank you, sir. Next, any additional public comment, please?
To the chair, I did want to note that we received a letter from Chris Kuhn. So that is from electronic correspondence. We had a total of 20 since the opening of the discussion.
So we've received an additional from Chris Q.
Correct.
Thank you. And you'll make that available for those who wish to.
Yeah, I circulated that to all of you board members, so you should have that.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, sir. Mr. Schwab, please. Oh, unmute, please, sir.
Thank you for the reminder. Very kind of you. Chris, as you know, is very active in discussions about parking downtown, and he specifically had a question for Mr. Stein. That question was circulated. I'm just going to read a part of it. What is Wynn going to do to prevent the harm their tenants will create by tying up parking spaces which the town provides specifically for customers of local businesses and which helps sustain the retail district and all the jobs within it. So this is not specifically about restaurants needing, cheap labor. This is about what damage will be done to the downtown parking area because wind development is not providing a sufficient number of parking spaces. That's Mr. Kuhn's question. I have a follow-up of my own. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comment from the public?
If there's no one else, I'd like to just add my question, if you don't mind.
Excuse me, sir. You're just a little bit low in your volume. Go ahead again. Say it again.
Yeah, I have an additional question.
Yes, sir.
Substantially all the investment in this building is being made by public sources. I mean, almost all of it, right? There's very, very little wind development money going into this deal. It's coming from us here in Hyannis. It's coming from the county, the state, and the feds. I mean, they're only putting in $1 million, and they're taking out $7 million in development fees. So given that the public is paying for this building almost in its entirety, why can't the building be designed in such a way as to satisfy the public? Why do we have to have 120 units when you only have parking for 60? If we're paying for this building, why can't you build a building that the public as a whole wants? Not just the bid, but the public as a whole. Thank you.
Any additional public comment? Yes, Elizabeth Wolfbane, please.
Hi, thank you. I concur with the earlier Mr. Villa's assessment of this design and model as being a great model for downtown development where you have a mixture of type of incomes in a building. But as we know, it's so expensive to build that you do need extra subsidy. You can't just develop affordable housing without help. It's just period. It's what we hear from everyone. Tim's on this call. Any developer on this call would say, it's just very difficult to put that together. And we're not talking about just affordable, we're talking about workforce. And you need workforce if this is the center of Cape Cod and the hub of the community. I would love to invite any of the residents that would love to talk about economic development to come to a meeting with some people from our board, as well as other people that are concerned about downtown economic development, parking, or retail and what their needs are. Because I think the specialist would be the actual business owners, right? And then the business leaders who've been doing this for years and years. We would have a say as to, what is important to all of us and to our own survival. But I'm a supporter of this development. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes, hi, my name's Dave
Yeah, sorry,
Colombo.
Dave. Sorry, Mr. Colombo. I muted myself and did not unmute, so please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Dave Colombo, I'm president of the Hyannis Main Street Business Improvement District and also a business owner and property owner, 43 years on Main Street. I too concur.
Well, unfortunately, he froze. We'll let him back if he unfreezes, certainly, to continue his comment. Is there additional public comment at this time? Yeah, I don't think I'm missing anybody at this point. Okay. If Mr. Colombo comes back, I will let him complete his comment. Okay. And Jillian, if he comes back, can we make sure if he wants to submit it, email as well? If that option is still open, certainly we take any and all public comment. Okay. At this point, is there any further public comment? All right, seeing none. I will move into topics for discussion. As chair of the board, though, I will note to everybody listening in attendance, the trust provides for the preservation and creation of affordable housing in the town of Barnstable, for benefit of low and moderate income houses. So the trust board will focus on that aspect of any proposal that comes before us. So I just want to state that and remind everybody of that. Okay, I'll move into topics of discussion. At this point, this is first item in topics of discussion. This is the continued review of wind company's development activity application. Harbor View 307 Main Street, Hyannis. Response to the board's request for further information from Mrs. Stein of Wind Companies. Jillian, at this point, we did send out a list of items. You did share the responses with all board members at this time. So if you or any member of the staff wishes to comment on that, that's fine. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to the proponent.
I had no further comment, just that the total number of electronic responses that we had received to date was 20. And that,
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, sir.
Great. Mr. Ellis, Rob Brennan,
Yes, sir.
representing wind companies, and apologies that I'm appearing remotely. But it's a very I think auspicious day. The reason I'm remote is I'm at a event with Housing Secretary Augustus, and for those on the meeting that don't know, today the $4 billion housing bond bill, the Affordable Homes Act, was advanced in the House, and it'll be taken up for debate and take its steps forward toward approval and toward funding and toward support of many projects like Win is proposing. And to get these done, it does in fact take the kind of financial supports and the kind of partnerships that those financial supports are predicated on. And a comment by Secretary Augustus today at the community college, talking about the progress and what it takes to make this to move forward and address the housing crisis that the Commonwealth is in, certainly that the Cape is in, is that it takes folks to show up. It takes folks to step up and to show up. And I think we are fortunate, and I speak as a resident of Barnstable, that we do have folks like the wind companies who are stepping up when those form-based codes were put in place, when the zoning changes were made to facilitate and attract this kind of development. So it has been truly my pleasure in representing Win in this endeavor. I know that they've been coming to these meetings with open ears. They have taken in all of the comments, and I'm going to turn it over to Adam Stein to step through and answer any questions regarding their revised submission that they tendered to the board. Adam?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate the intro. Good intro and a big day today. So that's exciting to hear. I hope those sessions went well today, Rob. As the town manager pointed out, we got a letter request from the board. We responded to that letter on 5/24. I think a lot of the questions I hope were helpful in the responses. And I wanted to focus in on what I think is the meat of the matter here, which is the number of units in perpetuity. And as a result of the requested $2 million of affordable housing trust funds for the project. And this has been an iterative process. It's been helpful to receive the commentary from the board and the public, and it's been helpful in us sort of crafting the revisions. So I hope that the latest response is helpful and is can get everyone comfortable with the request. What we heard last time at the meeting is that there was a request to increase the number of units in perpetuity to 25% of the total units, so 30 units of the 120. We've agreed to that. And the breakdown is 12 units at 60% AMI or lower, and that's consistent with your inclusionary zoning. We haven't wavered off of that. And then to add another 18 units at 80% AMI or lower, which is roughly around $110,000 per unit in the trust dollars per unit. And that totals the 30 units in total. So I'm happy to talk about any of the items and the questions. I'm happy to answer any questions. I didn't really have a whole presentation to lay out today other than to focus on the perpetuity item, but again, I'm available for anything. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for your review of your response to the 7 questions that were submitted for your for you to provide us information on. At this time, I will ask if any of the board members have comments or questions relevant to the information that we have been provided with. No? Yes, Laura, please.
Hi, Mr. Stein, or through the chair.
Yes.
Just a couple questions. One about the 50% and below. I know those aren't the ones you're asking for subsidy for, but I'm curious whether those will be project-based vouchers, and if so, why wouldn't you make them in perpetuity?
So we have some, hi Laura, nice to see you. We have some units, as you described, at 30% AMI and some at, I'm not sure if we have 50s. I know we have some at 30s, which is a very low income standard. That's part of our financing package. Those will be propped up with project-based vouchers. They're Section 8 project-based vouchers issued through HLC, but they'll be set at a 30% AMI restriction. What I'm trying to do is balance the requirements of the larger funding through HLC and their affordable housing restriction, which lasts a period of 30 to 40 years. So we're going to have different tiers and different restrictions that are separate from the affordable housing trust restrictions. I'm trying to separate the two. And I'm trying to speak to the request of the 25%, which, by the way, gives the town perpetuity for those 25% of the units and gives 100% of the units applicable to the SHI. So by doing the 25% of the units at 80% or lower, all the units, all the 120 count toward the SHI and never drop off. So they'll extend it in perpetuity. So that to me is the goal. The goal of the affordable trust is what I've heard, the board requests a 25 SHI perpetuity, and then we have separate requirements for HLC. And Laura, those are somewhat fluid. So I'm a little concerned about making decisions today on the affordable housing trust that'll lock in units and income tiering in perpetuity when we haven't fully vetted the capital stack funding and the requirements on the HLC side. So I'm trying to separate the two the best I can, but knowing that we'll have deeper subsidy than the 12 at 60 and the 18 at 80. I know we'll have deeper subsidy than that.
Just to be clear, I'm more interested in the affordable, not what counts, because they aren't truly affordable. So, they don't, whether they count or not doesn't make a difference. If we don't have the units to rent, then it doesn't matter. That, and then I think I think I have to ask the question about, Wynn's equity in the project. You know, I'm used to seeing 5 to 10% anyway. So just how does that, how do you get away with, how do you do a project like this with only $1 million? And then what percentage of the profit overhead and reserves is reserves? So how much of that is reserves?
So yeah, you had said getaway, and I'm not, I know you're not trying to be cute here, neither am I, but
No.
I think if you were to look at any affordable housing project in the Commonwealth, whether it's Wynn or any other developer, this is the standard capital stack. The risk associated with this project is we probably have, you know, I would say close to 6-figure number incurred to date on this project. So we're taking a lot of risk. We're putting out a lot of pre-development capital on a project that we don't have financing yet, that we don't have locked down. So there's a lot of dollars and opportunity cost that Wynn is putting into this project to make sure that it happens. So that's a level of risk that other developers, I don't think, would do. We purchased the land. That was $5 million. That's money that we put into the project. So if the project moves forward, yes, we'll contribute over $1 million of our developer fee. And yes, we'll make a developer fee, but that developer fee has to last us a 30 or 40-year compliance period associated with this property. There's not a lot of opportunities down the road to raise more capital for this type of development. So when something happens, like a storm damage or some type of issue that isn't covered by insurance, we have to put money into the property, and we're happy to do that. When there's a pandemic, and we have to be at the head of the eviction moratorium and not evict residents and make sure the property still is maintained and the elevators work and there's people working there, we'll do that. And our fee is commensurate with that risk and that long-term affordability period. So I appreciate the questioning and I appreciate the concerns, but everything we're doing is above board. Everything we're doing is permitted by HLC in terms of their developer fee calculations and what's required. And any housing at this level is going to be done in a similar fashion, only by a high capacity developer that's able to do 120 units of housing at these costs. So I just don't want there to be any thought that we're trying to pull anything on anyone or do anything different than what the program is intended to do.
Okay, Laura, do you have additional questions?
No, those were all that I had. Thank you.
Okay. Other board members, any comments or questions? No, nothing. Seeing none. Okay. Mr. Colombo, you dropped off. Did you wish to say anything, sir?
Sure, I apologize. Yeah, Dave Colombo, president of the Highest Main Street Business Improvement District and business and property owner, 43 years in and around Main Street. You know, we're very excited to see Wynn come in and propose to do this development here. You know, as far as we're concerned, they've checked all the boxes here as far as you know, the affordability and workforce housing that's much needed in the area. There's hardly a day that goes by. As a matter of fact, today I was approached from one of my staff looking for housing. I hear it, you know, hardly a week goes by where I'm not asked that question. I actually recently sold a piece of property, commercial property, about 5 weeks ago on Main Street. And what I do with that money, I bought 2 housing units. I presently myself have bought 3 units in the last 2 years to house my staff. So I think it goes without saying, all the studies prove it, that affordable housing is needed in the area. There's many benefits to this project here, but we're talking about the housing component right now. So, you know, I put my full support for this project on behalf of with the bid and also myself personally as a business owner. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Douglas, I don't believe I didn't see anybody else come in and out in a similar manner from the public. Did I miss anything, or was it just Mr. Colombo? I just want to be fair. If somebody else dropped off, if you know, I let one person, there isn't anybody else that left and came back, is there?
I see that Eric Schwab has his hand up, but and you did not close it to public comment yet.
Right, right. No, I just want to make sure if somebody else didn't, they lost their chance for technical reasons, that we give them their chance, so. Okay, back to the board. Board, discussion at this point. How would you like to proceed? Mark, please.
Thank you, Town Manager Els. Yes, I appreciate Wind Development coming back with addressing our questions and concerns with the initial proposal. You know, increasing the number of units to 18, 80% AMI or less, addresses the concerns that this board has purview over, which is creating low to moderate income housing for the town. I hear a lot of concerns about this project regarding parking, design, and other things, but those aren't the purview of this board. We're trying to create low to moderate income housing. I think this project is it's rare for the board to see a project like this. We haven't had them come before us. And the fact that it offers a total of 30 units, including the inclusionary ones, presents us with an opportunity that we haven't seen yet. And I'm very pleased to see this project come back as proposed from the Wind Development Group. And it has my support. Thank you.
Okay, other board members. I will, well, Laura, please.
I thought Wendy was gonna go, okay. Yeah, I too support this program. I think, this project, I think that it definitely responds to the needs of the community, as far as housing goes. The request, you know, is a little above our per unit in our new, in our new guidance. We do have the discretion to add that extra funds. I think overall, because Wynn did respond to our questions and our concerns, and increased the affordables to the extent that they did, that I think that it's worthy of going above the 100,000 per unit. So it has my support.
Okay, yes, please, Wendy Northcross.
I just want to echo my support as well. I looked through the additional questions that were answered by the developer, satisfies my my questions. I mean, the extremely detailed development budget, I think, is pretty self-explanatory, and I do, you know, I just am in awe of the cost of doing anything. So to be able to project out, I think you have to have a little bit of a cushion for unforeseen circumstances and for natural price increases in the marketplace. But I think that any question that I have has been fully answered, and I'm supportive of funding another 30 affordable units in our community.
Thank you. Before we proceed, Attorney Galvin, do you have any input for the board to consider as we proceed with this discussion?
Sorry about that. I think what I heard is consistent with the way you've been looking at this project, and I think it is falls within the parameters that you've established, and you have the discretion to award. So I certainly understand it, and I'll defer to the board as to whether this is the project in the current version that you want to fund.
Thank you, sir. Okay, members of the board, how would you like to proceed?
I'm ready to vote.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve the request for $2 million in trust funds to support the wind development project on Main Street, Hyannis.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All right, roll call vote. Oh, stop, I'm sorry. Any further discussion?
Could I just make a recommendation that the
Yes,
should
yes,
be
sir.
amended to reflect the revised proposal so that it's understood that
Yeah.
we're funding the $2 million for the most updated version of the project.
Yes, sir. Is that acceptable to the board?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, at this point, given the modification just stated, I'll do a roll call vote. Wendy Northcross,
Yes.
Laura Schufelt,
Yes.
Mark Milne,
Yes.
Mark Els, yes. Andy Clyburn is not in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Els. Thank you very
Yep.
much, members of the board.
Thank you very much.
You're
Really
welcome.
appreciate your time.
Okay,
Black.
next item on the agenda. New development activity application. Initial presentation. We're at LLC, The Flats, 199 Barnstable Road, Hyannis. Brad LLC is requesting $1,050,000 in support of redevelopment of 1.21 acres to construct 45 new one-bedroom rental apartments. A minimum of 5 units are required by local ordinance to be permanently deed restricted for affordability to occupants earning up to 65% of the area median income. This project proposes to protect 2 additional units as community housing to be permanently deed restricted for occupants earning up to 100% of AMI, area median income, for a total of 7 income eligible units. Okay, at this time, I'll ask Jillian Douglas if she wishes to comment on this application. Otherwise, I will turn it over to the proponent.
I had no comments. I just wanted to say the application is complete. Hopefully everybody has received, I believe. I did not hear back that anyone did not see that, so I'm assuming you all have the packets, and I'll leave it at that, and here if you have questions on me.
Thank you. So at this point, I believe, is it Mr. Zellman or Mr. Sprinkle, or who will be doing the presentation for you?
Tim Tellman here.
All right, welcome, sir.
How are you? Thank you
Yeah.
for allowing us the time to present this. So Brad Sprinkle and Tim Tellman representing Brat LLC, Barnstable Flats, on proposing 45 single, 1-bedroom units just off the airport rotary. The current site, it's basically 4 parcels that make up 1.21 acres. And it's a very unique and odd shaped site together at the 1.21. And at this point, if anyone's familiar with it on Barnstable Road, it does need to be removed. It's it's fairly dysfunctional and an eyesore at this point in time. So through Brat has control of the property at this time. Our proposal at the 45 units, and as you stated accurately, 5 are required at 65% AMI, which is 20%. It's 4.5, but rounding up, and then 2 additional at 100% AMI. Everything would be constructed identical. There'd be no delineation between any of the units. This project would be 4 freestanding structures. 3 of each would have 12 units in them, and the 4th unit would have 9 units. And again, that's predicated upon the unique shape of the lot. This project falls under the new zoning. So we have had our approval from formal site plan, and we are proceeding to building permit. We're just waiting for the finalized construction plans. So looking as to how this structure comes together, if as people look through the application, there, I went through the point system. That is subjective, as we all know. But for the record, we are in a position to proceed. Timing would be this is a fiscal or calendar 2024 event with approvals. As far as the structure and why the amount of $1,050,000, if you refer to our funding analysis, there's 4 pieces to this. It's bank financing, which is the bulk of it, an HDIP tax credit, owner's equity, and then the trust request. In looking at this from a loan to value perspective for senior debt financing, it is at 63%, which is on the lower end of what banks will allow. However, the amount we can borrow for this is limited by the amount of cash flow for a debt service coverage at 1.25 times. That limits that upper number. So the 7.8 million of financing is at its maximum. The HDIP tax credit, we are just waiting for review of our tie because they don't want the application submitted until you have that well underway. But the application has been submitted for review by the committee, but we will be seeking $2 million, a net of $2 million there. And then the owner's equity portion, the property currently valued at $1,575,000, falls in line with our disciplined approach to what we are able to pay per unit for the property. So at $30,000 to $35,000 per unit, at 45 units, it comes right in the neighborhood of $1,575,000. Whereas these projects will not work if we're paying $50,000 or $60,000 per unit for the property. The financing and does not work. That leaves the difference of the $1,050,000 that we are requesting from the trust. When we even look at our cash flows, the net cash flow is around $160,000 a year after all required payments. The return is in approximately 10%, which sounds like a lot, but the absolute dollars is not a great number. So that's why we've come up with the $1,050,000 on the 7 units. To address the reason for 45 one-bedroom units, if I did put a narrative in there regarding that, and there's two drivers. One, the Barnstable housing production plan supports that from a perspective saying that was just recently done, November of 22, that 70% of the homes in Barnstable, not the homes, but the household size are 1 and 2 people. Yet many of the available properties are for families larger than that. And secondarily, when we look to determine what our financing is and the financial feasibility of the project. That's the number that makes sense to make it financeable. And when we determine if we can put in even 6 two-bedroom units, cut the total project down to 39 units, it is unbankable. So those are the 2 reasons for that. And again, we would much prefer to have 1 building with 45 units than 4 buildings. So from an expense perspective, we have to put in 4 water services, 4 sprinklers, 4 foundations. And so that drives the cost. Interestingly, with interest rates where they are today, the carry cost for borrowing has doubled, more than doubled from our last project at 3.5% 3 years ago to this, which is around 7.25%, in addition to the increased construction costs. So let me see what else I have here. I mean, that covers it from 60,000 feet. I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, we have completed all our engineering. Our plans are just about complete. We have a readiness to proceed to break ground in late Q3, Q4 of this year. My partner and I have a proven track record. As you know, I've recently completed one of these successfully. And again, the funding is due to, where interest rates are, the cost of construction, and trying to put one of these projects together. So I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain questions from the board, please. Wendy?
So maybe Laura can answer this question too. If, Tim, if you don't get the HDIP financing, does that put the whole project on ice?
Yes. We should be able to get the HDIP. I've been in contact with them. It's, for months now. We'll be submitting that HDIP application July 11th. That's the next period that's open. They have plenty of money, and as you heard from Rob Brennan earlier, everyone knows what's going on. I don't need to repeat that, but they have been well funded this season and into the next few years. And I speak to them regularly. I've got a good relationship with them. Our previous project, they funded a year earlier than they originally had committed to, and I had met all the qualifications. I had them in my pocket, and so I'm confident that we are going to get that. They know what this project entails and the complexity of it, and what level it's at. So I stay in regular contact because that is important, Wendy.
Can you apply for that before you receive? No, you have to wait for the start of the
tie.
Yeah, thank you. Never mind.
Thank you. Any further questions, Wendy?
No.
Okay, Laura, please.
I guess the major problem is that you're looking for funds for the inclusionary units, which does not comport with our guidelines or regulations or whatever we call them. And that's the biggest problem I have with this. You're asking for $1.05 million for 200% units. That's one question. You didn't have any funds in there for any development for lottery and marketing. And we know the last one had some issues. So I would hope that you have that financed sufficiently to make sure that doesn't happen again. And then my third question is about the raise from the tax credits. You have it 80 cents, and I think you got 91 last time. So I'm wondering why the decrease.
We actually got 80 last time as well, but the net of it is you don't receive the tax credit until the project's complete. You don't get it funded until it's complete, and you have leases for 80% of the units. They don't have to be inhabited, but they have to have leases for it. So that difference is financing. Once that tax credit is awarded, you can take it to the life initiative companies and they will finance it at 8%. So your carrying cost is 8% for a year or two during construction, and then thereafter once, but you have to wait for that tax credit to be monetized when they issue it to you. And then it takes 2 to 3 months and you end up selling it to a life insurance company. We sold ours to New York Life. And with those proceeds, you pay off the loan to TLI. So that's the difference. So while it is 91%, once you net everything out between the broker's fee and then the interest expense, that's where it comes out. That 80% could vary, but that's based on my last one. It was 80%.
80 cents on the dollar.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Hey, any further questions at this time? Laura, please.
I didn't get any answer to the first two questions.
So 2 things, and I know we've covered this before, as far as the marketing, I don't know what the financial perspective is you're thinking about in the marketing for the affordables. We would be using a different marketing agent for very obvious reasons. There were a lot of stops and starts on that. Ultimately, everything did get rented and has been occupied. And the second piece was on did you say the development? I'm sorry, Laura, what was your second part of the question?
The question was relevant to the $1,050,000 ask for
Yeah.
two eligible units under how we look to fund the units, Tim.
Right, no, I understand that. And as you know, to get the project done, we're required to do the 5. And I know last go around, I'm kind of just basing it off of my experience from that. We received 140 per unit for 10 units, and we didn't give any more units. But without this fund, and I understand the perspective that how it's funded, but these projects don't work if there isn't greater support given for all the units. So it's a request based on the 7 units at $150 a piece to get this project off the ground and rolling, and it makes a difference. It's a thin project as it is with the $1,050,000.
So under our eligibility, just so I'm clear, you're asking for a subsidy per unit of $525,000.
If that's the math, yes, but I'm really looking for a 150 times 7, which is $1,050,000. But yes, Mark, that's.
Thank you. Laura, please.
Yeah. You see if someone else has a question, I'll come back.
I mean, our goal is to provide 7 affordable units into perpetuity. And for us to proceed with this project, we need to put these 4 sources of funds together. And that's why we're requesting what we're requesting.
Okay. Laura,
And then,
please.
and then additional 38, but it's bringing on, and I understand that perspective, but it's still bringing on 45 units into town that will have a multiplier effect, 7 of which will be affordable into perpetuity.
But again, the purview of the board is focused on very specifically what I've just stated relevant to eligibility, Tim. So you understand that as well. Laura, please.
So in your pro forma, you have an estimate of $2,100 for the market rate units. That's quite a bit less than you're charging at $850. And in $850, you said you were going to do $1,500 for the 1 bedroom, and now they're $2,900. So I'm wondering whether the revenue side is whether you've.
So a couple of things. We did that in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
The only people who cared that it cost $2 million more to build than we had in our pro forma was us, because we were on the hook for it. And I'm certain not only did costs go up for everyone from COVID, rents went up, cost of housing to purchase homes went up. So when we were approved for that, those were the numbers. COVID drove those numbers, not us. And so this is a much different project. Now, it will be built to the same standards as 850, very nice across the board. However, the property site does not allow for any amenities. Unlike other projects, we will have 100% parking on site. So that's what we did. We determined how much parking we need and then built the biggest boxes we could build with the remaining land. And that's where we come out. So, and we didn't want to go 4 stories because it doesn't look great there and coming into town. And so keeping it at 3 stories, that's why we are there. But there are no amenities. There's not a dog park that's 30 by 60. There's not bike storage in the basement. There aren't cages in the stores for people to store things. There's not a beautiful lobby. There's not a fire pit outside with furniture. It's a completely different project. So what I can tell you is per square foot, we built that for a lot less than what this is going to cost, unfortunately, and rates are twice as high as they were when we built that. Very different project. They're not comparable, but it will be the sight lines will be nice and the property and inside the units will be as nice as we have at 850.
Yes, please, Laura.
So the 2100 is less than the 100%.
I know that. I don't know. So we've looked at, our goal is to be under all of the other 1-bedroom. So first of all, that 2100 doesn't compare to 850 at all, but to other properties around, say within a mile of this, it's lower. And there's a reason for that, because we want to be full and we want to make it affordable. I don't know how anyone pays 2,300 at 100% affordable. That's probably not going to be the number. How do you charge market at 21 and 100% affordable at 23? The point is that there's going to be a point where market will probably go well above, over the next 2, 5, 10 years, market will be much higher than the affordable at 100%. But that's why we're at the 2,100.
Laura, you had your hand up again.
I was just going to say the 100% is math, and that's what it's calculation based on area median income, doesn't look at market. But typically, if it was any state agency, they'd make you be 10% below market. So if the market's 2,100, which it's,
We think that's a
then,
little below market.
so the 100% right now would be somewhere around 2,300 or 2,400, something like that. So
Okay, any further discussion or questions or comment by the board? Mark, please.
Thank you, Town Manager Ells, and good to see you again, Tim. Thank you for coming forward with your project. I think this is a good example of just how difficult it is for developers to create affordable housing, cost escalation in financing cost, material cost, labor cost, everything involved. Struggling with the amount of the requests and what the town would get back in exchange for that. Even though this developer is offering more equity than the last project we just voted on. But I'm wondering, Tim, if a higher request on the tie agreement would help the numbers and reduce the request from the board at all? Did you look into that?
Yes, so my understanding, the last 3 ties that were approved were at 100% for 5 years, 85, 6 through 10, and 60, 11 through 20. I wish I knew that when I did 850, because we were 85, 60, 50. So we're basically going for 100% reduction in the first 5 years, or exemption in the first 5 years. So there's no room to increase that right now.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Seeing no further discussion? Or is there further discussion by the board? Okay, none? Attorney Galvin, do you have any comment on this?
Sorry, I was again muted. I am concerned about Ms. Schufelt's concern that the project be funded in those 2 additional units. I don't think it's eligible.
Okay. So at this point, thank you, sir, for your comment. At this point, would the proponent like to take this under advise the questions and the comment by, our legal counsel? Would you like to take that under advisement and relook at your application, or how would you like to proceed, Jeff?
Right, well, yes, the short answer would be yes, I would like to do that. And, we've worked on many iterations, so there's different ways, to approach this. And, yeah, I would like to do that and figure out how we adjust or maybe work with a buy down or something.
Okay,
To be eligible. So, I guess my question is, as it stands, is it legally ineligible at the current point? Is that what I understand?
yeah, Attorney Galvin, did you want to, provide any further comment on that, or no?
No, I think just the 2 units are not eligible for this type of funding.
So the 5 aren't eligible, or why would the 2 not be eligible? I can understand the 5, but I don't understand the 2.
Dylan, do you want to jump in?
Well, I just, in light of the NOFA that we voted at the last meeting, the 5 that are required by our inclusionary zoning would not be eligible for funding. The 2 that would be at the 100% as community housing would have a cap. And the cap, you're requesting more than the cap. So that's,
Okay.
sorry, I just, the board reserves discretion to exceed that cap, but that you're over it with the request.
But the 2 at 100% are eligible for are eligible for what?
Not
For
over,
funding with it, go ahead, I'm
For
sorry,
funding
Attorney
over-
Galvin, go ahead. sir.
yeah, not over the cap.
Yeah.
Okay, understand. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
All
Any-
right, regroup and return.
So you'll take this back under advisement at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and please coordinate through, Jillian Douglas and, yeah, we'll see what you, intend to do moving forward, sir.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yes, of course, thank you. Okay. Moving on to the next topic, staff updates. I'll go with our trust administrator first. I'm not sure, planning staff, would be next. So Jillian, please.
Sure, I do see Elizabeth is here, but I'll just, I'll proceed with mine. The trust updates for the regulatory agreement for the Dennis Veterans Housing. This is a CVOC grant that was committed, I believe it was 2018, and it took a very long time because it was a community project, Veterans House in Dennis. But the amount that the Affordable Housing Trust allocated to that and committed to that funding was $90,000. And they are finally reaching the point where they, because it was so many different towns that had to all coordinate on that with the state, we do have the regulatory agreement finally signed. They are ready to submit for their closeout and their final payment. And we will need just a record of the recording and the W-9 to do that. And Mark Milne and I are working to hopefully finalize and close out that project. And I didn't know if Mark had anything he wanted to say to that, but
I think you've said it all. That's, we'll complete the payment once we've received all the required documents under the regulatory agreement.
and so that is 5 units of veterans housing in the town of Dennis that is fully occupied. The other is that we've committed to is Forward 2, which is housing for people on the autism spectrum. We have a commitment of 375,000 towards 8 units in the town of Dennis also. And again, this will be a regional project. We're hoping they are currently applying for funding, their final funding round in July. And they expect to be able to sign the regulatory agreement shortly. And again, I'll be bringing that back to the chair for signature as soon as we have those documents. And then I think it was already stated, I think, from this morning that there was a listening session. Secretary Augustus and his staff were at the Cape Cod Community College, and I did attend. They are working to gain input on the state's 5-year housing plan. The state has not had a state level plan for about 40 years. So this is something they're working all around the state, gaining input. I think it was pretty well attended. I know Laura was there as well. Excellent questions and comments from the public, and recognition from the Secretary's office that the Cape is unique and has unique environmental challenges and maybe a potential to be viewed as a region. And I didn't know if anybody else had anything, any other attendees wanted to comment on that, but that's my updates to date.
Thank you. Do we have any thank you, Julie. Do we have any comment from planning staff?
Hi, Town Manager Els, Elizabeth Jenkins, Director of Planning and Development. I am here and I apologize for being camera off. I did want to update, and I passed these specifics on to Jillian on the progress on the housing production plan. We released that updated draft with the newer and updated census numbers, as well as updated reports on what was happening on the state level, specifically on issues like the bond bill. That was brought back to the Housing Committee last week, where we got feedback. We are accepting public comments on that draft. Well, it will be an ongoing public review process, but we hope that the public will get comments in by June 14th, so we can organize those and pass those on to the planning board, who will be holding a public meeting on that plan on the 24th. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any other staff updates at this point? Seeing none, I'll move on to approval of minutes from May 13th, 2024.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have any discussion? Seeing none. Laura Schufeld,
Yes.
Wendy Northcross,
Yes.
Mark Milne,
Yes.
Mark Els, yes. Matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair. I think it ties into the next one. Elizabeth Jenkins or Laura, having attended this meeting today, is there anything at a future meeting that the trust should be briefed on relevant to what you heard today?
No, I think it was a listening session, so it was just meant to gather comments.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you. Okay, any under the 5th or the 6th category, really to the 6th, I guess. Any topics for future meetings and agendas? Okay. Yes, Laura?
I was gonna say not for the next meeting, but for a future meeting, we were thinking of reviewing the criteria scoring system. for
Yes.
our- But I think we need to separate it from active applications, so I would
Okay,
maybe September.
all right, well,
August. September.
yeah, what, that would be helpful to, look at that even with Attorney Galvin and just see when it might be appropriate to bring that sort of recommendation in, okay? Jillian, why don't you coordinate that, okay? Thank
Yes.
you. Okay.
Also,
appreciate it.
let's see, the scoring was one component, and Laura and I had talked about with our monitoring agreement, we are trying to have a template, maybe a guidance template from the state that would help in just tying back to that conversation about the marketing and the monitoring of the projects post-development. That's something that with our previous contract, there were some absences, if you will, in language. So we'll be working on that.
Okay. Thank you. All right, noted. So, next scheduled meeting is Monday, July 1st, 2024 at 2 p.m. Laura, your look is exactly what my brain just thought. July, it's here. So,
A question?
yes, Jillian, please.
The only thing that might intervene might be if Brat LLC was coming back with anything. If they have any comments or responses in advance of that, I will certainly reach out to you, but I didn't know if you wanted to mark a tentative on your calendars or that.
What, for the first?
No, the first, I believe, is
oh.
gonna be a solid. This
Well,
would be something between now and the first.
No, I think it'll be July 1st and, yeah, we'll proceed accordingly. If something comes up though, certainly we can communicate. All right, seeing no further discussion, do I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, Wendy says yes. Do I have a second?
Second,
Laura seconds it. Okay, roll call vote. Laura Schufeld,
yes.
Wendy Northcross,
Yes.
Mark Milne,
Yes.
Mark Els. Yes. Thank you all.